Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Code Review webinar. My name's Tracy McCormack, and I am the Assistant Director for Midwifery, and I've got my two colleagues with me who are going to introduce themselves. So we've got Professor Paula Jane Holt. I'll let you introduce yourself, Paula.
Hi, everybody. I'm Paula, and I'm a Senior Nursing Advisor here at the NMC. Looking forward to this session with you.
And we have Aditi.
Thanks, Tracy. Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Aditi Chaudhary Gandhi. I'm Head of Standards. Thank you very much for joining the webinar today.
So before we get started with our presentation, we're just going to go through some housekeeping. So it's great that there's already 134 of us on the webinar, and due to the number of attendees, everyone except us as presenters are automatically muted. And so please don't use the raise your hand or chat features. These will, and the chat feature will be disabled, and you can use the Q&A function for any questions and comments. And we'll try to answer as many of your questions as we can, but due to the number of people attending, we probably won't be able to answer all of them. But please be assured that as a team, we'll review everything you tell us. The session is being recorded and it's going to be uploaded to our website afterwards, and you'll have a link sent to you that you can share with colleagues that haven't been able to attend today. Attendees can switch on live captions in Teams for accessibility under the More 3 dots and select either accessibility or language and speech. And for further questions and comments, we can be emailed at the email address below. Thank you. So just a bit of background before we start around our future standards. So as part of our corporate plan for 2025-2026, there are 4 areas of work that we're focusing on, and that's the review of the code, review of revalidation, and review of practice learning and regulation of advanced practice. All of these are fundamental to nursing and midwifery professional practice and will ensure we protect the public through modernised standards. We're sequencing the work to make sure that we can collaborate widely and effectively with all of your stakeholders and public. And our standards must reflect the significant changes that have impacted on health and care delivery in recent years, from EDI to COVID pandemic and high-profile inquiries and the progress of artificial intelligence. The core regulatory work we're delivering will support the professionals on our register to continue delivering safe and effective care in this changing context. And now I'll hand over to Paula to carry on the webinar.
Thanks very much, Tracy, for setting the context of where this work sits within all of the professional practice work. So I know that most people are fully aware of the code and what it is, but just a couple of slides to outline it so that we're all on the same page. So obviously the NMC's code represents a set of professional standards which all nurses, midwives and nursing associates must keep to and align their practice to. And it sets out what good nursing and midwifery care is and what people can expect. So if we go on to the next slide. There we go. So the code is an important document, and it has significance and different significance for a wide range of different stakeholders. So the code is fundamental to registered nurses, midwives and nursing associates in the UK, outlining professional standards and expected behaviours and conduct. It serves as a guide to us as professionals for ethical and professional practice, emphasising to registrants the importance of prioritising wellbeing and safety of people who use services and their carers. For student nurses, it serves as a crucial framework for developing their professional identity, guiding their practice, behaviour and conduct and decision making. For the public, it sets out what they can expect for in terms of registered professionals, ensuring that they prioritise the well-being of people and maintain public trust. Essentially, the code helps the public to understand the expected standards of care and behaviour from nursing and midwifery professionals. And the code is a crucial document for employers of nurses, midwives and nursing associates. It outlines the professional standards that these practitioners must uphold, and employers are responsible for ensuring that their staff adhere to those standards. The code also helps employers maintain the quality and safety of care provided by their registered staff. Internally at the NMC, the code is a key tool in the NMC's role as a regulator for nurses, midwives and nursing associates in the UK. For example, the code serves as a benchmark against which the NMC can assess fitness to practice and investigate concerns about registered professionals. So if we go on to the next slide, it's not moving for me for some reason. There we go. Apologies for that. So if we just outline some of the design principles that are guiding how we're updating the code and the guidance that will support the code, we must make sure that what we design and what we develop and the guidance we produce are fit for our regulatory purposes. It must reflect evidence from our regulatory processes, and at the NMC we've got lots of evidence that's related to our education, our registration, revalidation and fitness to practice, as well as other intelligence gathering and engagement that we are engaging all the time, and all of that evidence is being considered within this review. The code should represent the nursing and midwifery professions that we regulate with a UK-wide context. And this now includes nursing associates, of course, which the previous, the code that we have now doesn't. The code must align with our existing education standards, and it must accommodate our regulatory commitments going forward, such as the regulation of advanced practice. So, further design principles are that the code, we want to be ambitious, evidence informed and outcome focused, reflecting all the contemporary issues that have been going on from the publication of the code in 2015 through to future proofing it to at least 2035. It needs to meet the PSA's, the Professional Standard Authority's right touch regulation principles of proportionality, and it must be accessible and reflect feedback from a really diverse range of stakeholders, including members of the public, registrants, students, and people who use services. It must demonstrate our learning mindset as an organisation and a regulator, reflecting the lessons that we've learned and the lessons we've learned from public inquiries, as well as our own internal organisational transformation as well. So all of that will be taken into consideration. So if we look at our approach to the code review, we've got really clear objectives that make sure that we embed authentic equality and diversity and inclusion. And I mean that in the widest possible sense, and Aditi will elaborate on that later, but that equality, diversity, inclusion is something that's we've got a really clear lens on. The approach needs to reflect our culture transformation with clear links to regulatory fairness. It needs to be co-produced, involving members of the public, patients and professionals on the register, promoting a culture of openness and honesty. We will co-design the code and guidance with outcome-focused standards and our subsequent guidance and other deliverables as well. We'll co-design all of those, and we will actively engage, respecting and applying multiple perspectives to prioritise outcomes. We've got a really wide range of stakeholders that are supporting the co-design of this. And our communication engagement will be participatory, inclusive, open and transparent. And again, later you'll hear about some of the ways that you can get involved other than just this webinar. And what we want to build is consensus and make decisions that are underpinned by evidence, by expert perspectives, all stakeholder perspectives, and we want to drive real validity and rigour to our approach. So this is where now you have your first bit of participation. And this is a question which considers how you use the code. How you use the code. And what we're doing is we're going to ask you, we're going to put up something that's got suggestions that are based, these suggestions here are based on some of the responses we've already received. So you're going to be asked a question and you can pick 1 to 5. But obviously in terms of the other, we've said please specify, and if you would like to put any other way that you use the code into the Q&A, and then we can collate that later. So in a moment, a question will pop up and it will ask you to choose one of those ways that you use the code currently, and you will be able to put into the Q&A anything that comes under the other category. And I'm not sure if that's gone up. It is up. Thank you very much indeed. I think we're seeing different screens. Apologies.
If anyone can't see the poll on their screen, go to the chat function and you'll see it in there. Otherwise, use the slide to input your responses into the Q&A box.
Okay, so if we move on, the next slide looks at the significance of the code as well. And as you know, looking at how the code is structured and its significance is important. At the moment, what we've got, as you know, is sections that contain a series of statements that taken together signify what good nursing and midwifery practice looks like. Now, these sections are prioritise people. And this section emphasises the fundamental principle of person-centred care, requiring our professionals to treat individuals with respect, dignity and compassion. It highlights the importance of assessing and responding to the holistic needs of those receiving care, and it emphasises that nurses, midwives and nursing associates are expected to act in the best interests of the people they care for, ensuring their needs are at the heart of all decisions and actions. The next section is about practicing effectively, and that section focuses on the need for professionals to maintain and develop their competence and skills throughout their careers, emphasising the importance of evidence-based and best practice to deliver safe and effective care. So it includes staying up to date with the latest research and guidance and actively seeking opportunities for professional development. Preserve safety sets out the responsibility of nurses, midwives and nursing associates in maintaining a safe environment for themselves and those they care for, and includes, for example, taking appropriate precautions to prevent harm, reporting risks or errors and adhering to relevant laws and regulations. And then the fourth section is around promoting professionalism and trust. And this section collectively defines what constitutes good nursing and midwifery practice and guides professionals to uphold their responsibilities. So that last section really focuses on maintaining high standards of professional conduct and ethical behaviour, and emphasising the importance of building and maintaining trust with patients and the public, and acting with integrity, honesty and accountability. So the next slide again is participatory. And looking at those four sections, it's asking which areas of the code you particularly like or resonates the most with you. And in this, on this occasion, you're going to be asked to type in responses. So hopefully they're all happening.
Sorry, Paula, I think we might need to clarify to people where they can type.
Is it a word cloud or is it in the Q&A? Is it in the Q&A?
Sorry. It's in the Q&A.
Okay, so sorry, apologies. So if you want to pop your qualitative, your comments into the Q&A in terms of areas of the code that you particularly like or resonate with you. So if you want to keep on typing and thinking about that as we continue with the presentation, I'm now going to hand over to Aditi.
Thank you very much, Paula. Fascinating to see all of the responses to this question, as well as the one that we had posed to you earlier. So I can see that professionalism, safety, prioritizing care of people are some of the areas that people are really keen on. So moving on to what our vision is for this code review. Now, we want the new code to be evidence-based and future-focused. It needs to be reflective of contemporary practice. It's got to be ambitious in terms of equality, equity, as well, diversity and inclusion. And most importantly, it has to reflect the diversity of the register. Now, our register looks very different than what it did 10 years ago. So we are very minded of the fact that we've got new roles, we've got a diversity of demographics and backgrounds in which people have joined the register. So it's all important to demonstrate that diversity. But also we are minded of our remit as a regulator. So we are being realistic of what we can and wish to do. And it is going to be very much based on feedback that is provided by diverse voices. So your voice is absolutely essential. So the principles that Paula mentioned in an earlier slide in terms of co-production, collaboration, are absolutely key. We cannot do this in isolation. We need you to be part and parcel and stay with us throughout this journey. So going back to, why this review and why now? Obviously, the code is 10 years old, and that in itself is a strong reason for why we should be reviewing the code now. The last time we reviewed it was in 2015. The world was a different place. We did not have the pandemic at that time, for example. The digital tools that are now available were perhaps not in existence, or they were just emerging or in development at the time. Now, increasingly, we know that there is confidence in the usage of digitalization, perhaps more that is needed in terms of use of safe and effective use of artificial intelligence, for example. We also recognize that the population profile, the people that nurses, midwives, and nursing associates serve, has also changed, and it continues to change. The expectations from the professionals on our register has changed, and we need to be minded of that and be reflective of that in our regulatory expectations. And that in itself has impacted the health and social care landscape. So it means that we've got quite a few changes. The fact that we now have the nursing associate role in England and the similar role being developed in Wales itself demonstrates the changes that have happened and more that are likely to happen. This has also meant different workforce changes. Our own work on the digital regulation of advanced practice demonstrates the workforce changes and the expectations that the professionals themselves, as well as employers and members of the public have. So we need to be able to demonstrate that we are listening to all of that. And then, of course, we've got numerous public inquiries. So over the past 10 years, a lot has changed, and there have been quite a few lessons for us to consider, both from the wider health and social care landscape, but particularly what does this mean for individuals that we regulate, and what does this mean for us as a regulator? So that takes me to the key points that we are bearing in mind as we embark upon this code review. We are, of course, a 4-country regulator, so we have to make sure that any expectations we set are cognizant of the 4-country context. The fact that you have different workforce strategies, you have different educational priorities, and different care requirements and service requirements has to be something that we factor in. We are now quite proudly, regulators of 3 professions. So it's nurses, midwives, and nursing associates that we regulate. And as I said, the introduction of the nursing associate role is imminent in Wales as well. So we need to keep that in mind. At the same time, we have embarked on the other end on this ambitious plan for education change. We concluded a whole-scale update of all of our education standards and the proficiencies, and we continue to do some work in this area as part of our review of practice learning. That also means that any expectations we set in terms of advanced level practitioners, etc., have to be minded of what we do as a regulator. So the code itself, as Paula said, it's something that we use both as a regulator and as an organization. We also are minded that it has several uses, as you've said in our initial question. So we know that, for example, it serves as a reflective tool. It serves as conversations that you have with people that you teach and you learn with. So all of that is really helpful context. We also know that, we have a lot of catching up to do in terms of everything that has happened in the past 10 years. But our firm vision is for the future. So it is not just about catching up with what has happened. It is about preparing the professions that we regulate to face the future and to meet the expectation that members of the public, employers, and the professions themselves have from the people that we regulate. So going to the next bit, which is about all of the things that you would like to see in the code. We've given you a bit of context in terms of the things that we have in mind. We'd like to hear from you. What are the top 3 things that you think we should be adding in addition to what we already have in the code? And I'll just pause and let you respond in the Q&A function now. And just to remind you that I think you can keep responding to these questions. So do keep them going. You can see some really interesting comments that are coming in terms of social media being an area that people would like to see, something on digitalization and AI, supporting learners in practice-based learning. Excellent. Do keep them going. Faith preference in providing care. Such a topical issue with the assisted dying bill at the moment, isn't it? Personal life and impacts on professional practice. That is definitely something that we have picked up in our evidence work as well. Accountability, absolutely. And I must say that there are areas that we have got in the code. So it's not necessarily that there might be gaps, but you might think that there is more refinement, more strengthening, more nuancing that we could do. So please keep pouring your suggestions in. I'm going to move us along so that we can have some time towards the end for questions. So this is a reminder that when we talk about the code review, we are not just talking about one document. Actually, we are talking about the underpinning guidance, which is just as important. So the code has everything that we absolutely expect must happen, but we recognize that you've got to make the expectations that we set as from a regulatory perspective and make them your own in terms of your individual scope of practice. So that's why we've developed guidance, and we've got 3 pieces of guidance at the moment. We've got a guidance on raising concerns. We've got the joint collaborative guidance with GMC on professional duty of candor. And then we've got the social media guidance. Now, we hope that all of you are using this in order to, help you guide your day-to-day practice, have those reflective conversations with people that you work alongside, people that you line manage, perhaps people that you're educating and preparing to join the future register. So that is really the purpose of all of these existing pieces of guidance. But we recognize that actually there might be potential areas where we do need to consider further guidance development. And that is based on all of the evidence that we have gathered, all of the feedback that we have received over the past 10 years, but equally any learnings that we have received from all of the public inquiries and other areas of conversations with other regulators, etc. And from that, we recognize that delegation is one area that can be quite, that does require some clarity. We know that delegation can be quite tricky depending on, which context you are in. So it is about reminding people of what is our expectation from a regulatory perspective. The other bit, of course, is about professional boundaries, as you've already said in the chat box. This is an area we recognize is constantly evolving, particularly for those who may have newly qualified or who may have joined from having qualified from a different part of the world and coming to join the NMC register. It's quite important to set those clear expectations of what we expect from any individual who has joined our register. The third area that we recognize we absolutely must consider developing some guidance on is prescribing practice. this is demonstrated by the rising number of prescribers, which is great to see, because now we can expect that people who are registered with us, the professionals that we regulate, are able to provide that end-to-end care, which is so essential for members of the public. But we also know, therefore, that prescribing in itself, there are some inherent risks that are associated with prescribing. And therefore, this is an area that we need to issue further clarity and guidance on to help support individuals with those additional qualifications. But in addition to that, we know that there are areas like safeguarding, student FTP, for example. Now, we don't regulate students. Our remit is very much those who are already on our register, but we recognize and we have a responsibility as a four-country regulator to be able to influence this space, to prepare individuals who are seeking to join the register, our future registrants, and therefore this is something that we are considering. Equally, if you'll see the recent work that we have embarked upon in terms of safeguarding, we are committed to strengthening that even further, because this is a huge area that is important from a public protection and patient safety perspective. So we are considering that as another potential area. But then looking to the future focus, what lies ahead? So two of the big areas that we know are very much here and now, and actually are likely to be quite important in the future, are digitalization and sustainability. And that is something that we will potentially consider as well. So again, all of these areas, we expect that you will participate and help us, because this is something that, again, has to reflect the diversity of the register. It's got to reflect the different scopes of practice that individuals have, the countries in which they practice. And we need to ensure that expectations that we set are equitable and they respond to those different settings, those roles that individuals work in. And we are not limited by developing guidance. We would like to develop other products as well. Now, we know that, for example, the animations that we have underpinning the code are quite popular. So we would like to consider developing other such products supporting information, infographics, animations that you would like to see in order to help the code more accessible, because the code is something that we hope you can carry day to day in your practice to guide and serve you in terms of how you should be practicing. So I'm going to now take you to another little question that we have, and that is about what are some of the areas that you think we need to develop supporting guidance on underpinning the code. Again, please use the Q&A function to record your responses, and you can be as creative as you like. You know, we are going to collate all of these responses. Equally, if any offers of help will be gratefully received if there are areas that you think you can provide expertise on. So please use the Q&A function now to tell us what supporting guidance can we develop underpinning the code. I think prescribing and medicine certainly is one big area I can see that is coming up. And so is professional boundaries and delegation, which is quite reassuring to know that we are on the same page as what we are picking up in terms of feedback. And it's great to see that people are adding quite nuanced suggestions, which we are going to take away and analyze and help us determine our direction of travel. Please keep them going while I now hand over back to Tracy to take us through some of the timelines and what lies ahead. Over to you, Tracy.
Thank you very much, Aditi. I'm just having a look at the Q&A here, and a lot of good suggestions there that will help us as we progress this work. Thank you very much for your participation. So the timeline that we're currently working to, we are in the process of recruiting an independent chair to lead a stakeholder steering group for both code and revalidation. And this steering group will consist of professionals, registrants, employers, and we will have public representation within this group, and we aim to get members from across the UK. We are in the process currently of recruiting, and the closing date for applicants for this independent chair is the 22nd of July. So please look on our website if this is something you feel will interest you. We're currently in the scoping phase, as you've gathered from colleagues, and of research and engagement, and we're in the process of collating evidence. And this has already started in July now, and we will be carrying on in this phase until May of next year. We'll then present evidence and consult on a draft of the code and also of revalidation in the second half of next year. After the consultation, assimilation, this will be December to March of 2027. We'll go for approval to council in summer of 2027. And the new code and revalidation process will be published in October 2027. And we aim for the first professionals to revalidate under the new system in April of 2028. And just to inform you, I'm sure, hopefully some of you have signed up, but it's still available to sign up. There's a revalidation focused webinar on Monday, the 21st of July, and that starts at 3:15. Can you move to the next slide, please, Diti? So thank you so much for your participation and the questions that you put in the chat, which we will ensure that we look at and answer. And you've also got the email address there again for code and revalidation review. As I said at the beginning, this is being recorded and it will be published on our website, and there will be a link that you can share so that other people can have the presentation, and you can go on to send us an email if you've got any further queries. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Tracy. Yes, there are a number of questions, more comments than questions, which is great. So at this point, one of the, a number of questions that have come in are in terms of how people could get involved in this review. So if you could highlight that, please.
So there's a community of practice that we don't have the link anywhere here to share, do we?
It's on our, so if you go onto our webpage, but we can certainly circulate that. But on our, we have got a webpage that's dedicated to the review of code and revalidation, and that's got a link to the webinar for revalidation, which is great. It's also got a link to a form that allows you to register with our community of interest, which means we can keep you informed and updated on what we're doing, but also include you when we want your when we desperately want to include you as stakeholders to be able to inform how this progresses. It's clear from what's coming through on the Q&A, there's lots of ideas. So Simon has just put that in the Q&A, which is great. Thank you, Simon. But if you have a look on that page, you can see it all. And obviously we've got the email address here as well. If there are other comments or longer comments that you want to make or things that you urgently think you want to share with us, then we will certainly take all of that on board. It's really interesting seeing that some of the golden threads we're picking up, you're really reinforcing, and that's really good actually in terms of that sort of triangulation of where different stakeholder voices are coming from. But we are very, very committed to making sure the stakeholder views that we have are wide and broad, and also includes students and includes people that are new to our register. So we've got a very, very broad engagement strategy. Thank you for the question about members of the public. We will be having a stakeholder group that is just members of the public. We've already made a start with our the Public Voice Forum at the NMC. They started us off because we've got a very active and engaged public voice here at the NMC, and we're extending that to make sure that we have a public stakeholder group that feeds directly into the project and the wider project group that we've got.
There is one other question. Thank you, Paula and Tracy, for your responses to those. There's one other question on, are we looking to review our OSCE process for internationally educated professionals when they join our register to reflect contemporary issues, practices, etc. So would you like to take that one, please? Thank you.
This is something that we are considering, but it will be a separate piece of work to this. And there are talks at the moment to look and just make sure that as we're reviewing the code and revalidation, we consider that. But it's something that we will have more information about in the coming months, because we are in the early scoping phases of that process.
And thank you for the question about student nurse and student midwife and student nursing associate participation. The answer to that is yes. And again, we're going to have a whole stakeholder group that's going to contribute to the steering group that will be students and newly qualified nurses, midwives and nursing associates. As well as that, we are engaging with our usual stakeholders like RCN and Unite to make sure that we're talking to their student representatives so that we're getting their voice too. So we are casting the net wide in terms of nursing students and newly qualified registrants, which when you consider that we're trying to make sure that we've got a code that's fit for the future, then obviously these are the people that are working in contemporary practice and can really help shed some light on the areas that they would like to see in the code that are not there already. When I'm out and about, it's amazing how many students say to me, did you know the code was out of date? And we go, yeah, that's why we're updating it now. It's a lot has happened in the last 10 years.
Thank you. And I can see a few comments on support for internationally educated professionals, particularly because many of them might be supporting staff or students, etc. And we are very much aware that is a growing number on our register. So that's why the diversity of the register and making sure we are speaking to all parts of our register is absolutely essential. Some of you may know that we have got a forum for internationally educated nurses, midwives, or diaspora professionals. And we are going to tap into that wonderful resource in addition to proactive engagement that we would like to do with some of the networks that exist. Equally, what we are doing is we've got a strong employer link service, that team that is working quite closely with employers for the Welcome to the UK program. That has been running successfully for a number of years now, and we are going to tap into feedback and evaluation that they have received to identify what are some of the themes that we need to consider as part of this code review. And as Paula and Tracy has already said, do participate, do sign up to our community of interest, because that will enable us to make sure you are invited to specific engagement activity that we might plan over the next few months. I think a lot of the others are suggestions for things that we might want to consider, which is great to see. Lots of suggestions for looking at digital and digitalization, etc., which is quite important. Lots of support for the prescribing piece of work as well that we are committed to include. And yes, I think people would like to see more interactive guidance, which is great to keep them going in terms of your feedback. And please engage with us through the inbox that is shared. This is for both code and revalidation reviews, because we are working quite closely. They are interconnected reviews, so they are progressing alongside each other. And so if you've got suggestions, any evidence, any important papers, anything that you want to share, any offers of support and help as well, very gratefully received. Please use the inbox for that, in addition to signing up to the community of interest. And I can see Gurinder, my colleague, has put in a little poll for how you think the webinar has gone today. Just like to assure you that this is first of many engagements. Mm-hmm. This is just the beginning of the conversation. So very grateful for your time today, to all of those who could attend.
And thank you, Joyce, for your question where you've asked about the different contexts of where nurses work. We are very aware of that, and we're being so inclusive of all the contexts of where nurses work, including independent and social care, including armed forces, criminal justice system. We're really casting that very wide in terms of the context of where nurses work, so that the code is going to be applicable wherever nurses, midwives and nursing associates are working.
as we said earlier, we will look at the themes and take everything into consideration. So if we haven't answered a question that you've put today, please be assured that it will be considered in the work as we take it forward. And if there's no further questions, I think we will just like to thank you all for coming today, and thank you for all your participation and engagement. And please do sign up, as Paula said, through the website, because we would really like as many of you as possible to be involved in this process as we take it forward. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good rest of the afternoon. Thank you.